Hello guys, welcome to another video on Finity. This is Anshuman and today is a very special video. I've got Diksha with me who's a friend and also works with Finity, and today I'll sit with her and create her investment plan. Are you excited for today's video?
A little nervous.
First of all, Diksha, tell me one thing. Since when have you started working and have you invested anything till now?
So college khatam hone ke just baad hi I started working. And I thought ki up to now that I'm earning, I'm going to be very disciplined. I'm going to start investing. I'm going to start saving every month. But the only problem was I was living in Bombay. So saving to dur ki baat hai, I had to borrow money from my dad every month.
Guys, one interesting fact here is that Diksha has studied economics and finance. So I'm sure that in your curriculum, you were introduced to the topics of mutual funds, equity, and even personal finance. So what happened there?
Yeah. So not only have I done economics with finance, I also have appeared for my CFA level 1. I know the basics of personal finance, but still, like, my relationship with money is very, very weird. I try to save every month. I know everything that you're supposed to do. I've read all these books, Rich Dad Poor Dad, The Psychology of Money. I've read everything. I know what I'm supposed to do, but uske baad bhi ho hi nahi pata. Saving ho hi nahi pata. So even if my salary increases, my expenses increase like at a higher rate than that also. जैसे मुझे लगता है अब बैंक में और पैसा आने वाला है, मेरा expenditure भी just goes through the roof.
So that's called lifestyle creep. As your income increases, your lifestyle also somehow catches up, right? So if you do not have the discipline of saving or investing, you will find new ways to, spend your money. But finally, after 3 years, now you have realized the importance of investing and saving, and you want to create an investment plan. So what is the amount that you're looking to invest today? And do you have any ideas कि कैसे करना है?
So I wanna invest around 25,000 every month. कैसे करना है? I'm not sure.
ठीक है, fair. Okay. So firstly, Diksha, do you have an emergency fund?
No, I don't.
Okay. I'll just explain the emergency fund for everyone. It is the rainy day fund, right? Life में बहुत सारे ऐसे expenses आते हैं जिसको हम account नहीं कर सकते because we don't know when it will happen. So the best thing to do is to create an emergency fund which is just there to take care of such expenses which were unexpected. And to build that emergency fund, firstly you have to come up with your monthly expenditure. Idea आ जाना चाहिए कि मेरे basic fixed expenditure कितने हैं, and then you multiply with the number. Now that number, according to me, inversely proportional to your job security. If you are doing a government job or you have a very stable corporate career, so in that case, तुम्हें पता है कि life में कम emergency खर्चे आ सकते हैं. When I say कम emergency खर्चे, मतलब you know that your cash flow is sorted, so you can actually take care of a lot of these emergency expenses just by your fixed cash flows. But if you are a freelancer or if you are self-employed, then your cash flows are not predictable, and at the same time, your responsibilities are always there. So in this case, you should have a bigger emergency fund. So in my case, I am self-employed right now and I have a few responsibilities. So my emergency fund is anywhere between 8 to 12 months of my fixed monthly expenditure. Some of my fixed monthly expenditure is rent, food, then electricity, house help, etc. I would suggest you to first, build this emergency fund, because क्या होता है ना, अगर तुम directly stocks और mutual fund में सब कुछ डाल दो, okay, and फिर life में कुछ suddenly एक emergency खर्चा आ गया, then you would have to redeem those investments to feed for this. But those investments were there for the long term so that they could constantly compound and create wealth for you. Emergency fund कहाँ invest करना है वो भी बहुत important है. Right. You should always keep your emergency funds in investments which are very liquid, because you never know कब emergency आ सकती है. And second, extremely safe. So some of the examples are a secondary bank account. You can just have a bank account which is there only for this emergency fund. Right. The second option is putting these funds in debt funds or liquid mutual funds. These are relatively less riskier because ये equity product नहीं है, ये debt product है. तो इसमें 6 से 7% का annual return you can expect. So it will just beat the inflation. Right?
अच्छा. Okay, so I have one question. Any kind of debt fund works, because from what I know, there are a lot of debt funds, right?
Nice. Here again, debt funds have different categories, and with each category, the risk profile keeps changing. So you should always consider investing and parking your emergency fund in less risky debt funds. अब इसमें एक और चीज है, पूरा का पूरा पैसा बैंक अकाउंट में मत डालना, because if you are very lucky और लाइफ में कभी emergency आए ही ना, then you are actually losing out your money. because बैंक अकाउंट में you get 2 to 3% interest rate, but आज के दिन inflation ही 5 to 6% है. So split your investments, invest, park it in bank account and keep some amount in liquid funds. इसका ये reason है कि बैंक अकाउंट का पैसा तुम कभी भी निकाल सकते हो, but जो debt funds है उनको withdraw करने के बाद एक working day में आपके पास वो पैसा आएगा. Suppose an emergency expense comes on a Saturday, then you have to wait till Monday. Right? तो इसलिए वो split करना सही है. Now, this entire 25,000 you should not invest in emergency fund. You can build your emergency fund, right? धीरे धीरे, gradually. You have to first come up with your emergency fund number, and then you have to decide कि मैं हर महीने इस 25,000 रुपए में से कितना emergency fund के तरफ allocate करना चाहती हूँ. अब direct investments के बारे में बात करते हैं. Firstly, Deeksha, do you track the market?
I mean, I try to. But then I realized that I find it extremely taxing and extremely boring.
Then it's better to outsource this process to an expert. So this is via mutual funds or index funds for stocks.
Yeah.
Right? So for your equity investments, I believe that the best vehicle is either mutual funds or index funds. Now, whenever you are investing in equity mutual funds, there are three main categories of funds based on the stock size: large cap, mid cap, and small cap. Large cap funds are mutual funds which invest majority of their amount in the first 100 companies in terms of their market size. So I'm talking about companies like HDFC Bank, Reliance, Infosys, TCS. Okay, so these companies, because you are investing in stocks, of course, there is an element of risk, but these companies are extremely stable, and that's why the risk in large cap funds is not as high as the other categories. The second type of funds is mid cap funds. These are the funds which invest majority of their assets in companies from 101st to 250th in the National Stock Exchange and Bombay Stock Exchange. And third category is small cap funds, जिसमें जो managers है वो majority of their assets 251st company and beyond वाले में invest करती है. तो मतलब नेशनल स्टॉक एक्सचेंज में अराउंड 4 से 5,000 कंपनीज है. ये स्मॉल कैप फंड्स 251st से लेकर आगे के सारे कंपनीज में अपना 65 to 70% इन्वेस्ट करते हैं. तो इनमें हाई रिस्क होता है, बट एट द सेम टाइम इफ यू आर पेशेंट इनफ एंड इफ यू कैन वेट फॉर लाइक 9 to 10 years, then these investments, these small cap funds can give you a CAGR of anywhere between 20 to 25%, which is a very high return. But at the same time, these high returns will come with a lot of volatility. Now, to decide how much amount you want to put in each of these categories, you have to first ask yourself these two questions. How much volatility I am okay with? And number two, for how many years I am making these investments. जितना ज़्यादा risk appetite होगा और जितना लंबा tenure होगा, उतना ज़्यादा आपका proportion riskier investments में डाल सकते हो. But at the same time, I would first suggest again to get comfortable with these investments. तो पहले ज़्यादा amount large cap में डालो, फिर धीरे धीरे as you understand all this, you just take more risk if you want to. Now let's start with picking the funds. First, we'll pick large cap funds. Whenever you are giving your money to a fund manager, he will charge a fee which is known as expense ratio for this service. Okay, now it only makes sense for you to pay an expense ratio if the mutual fund is actually performing better than its benchmark. So every mutual fund is linked to a benchmark, which is the index. So large cap funds, because 1 to 100 companies में majority invest करता है, तो large cap funds are often linked to Nifty 100 index. Let's say you are investing 10,000 rupees for 10 years every month, and this fund gives you a return of around 15%, but इसका expense ratio 1% है, ठीक है? So expected rate 14% होगा, ठीक है? And compounding frequency is yearly, and let's calculate. इस केस में your total amount invested is 12 lakh rupees and your maturity value is around 25 lakh rupees. Okay. Now let's take another fund which is given the same 15% return and charges an expense ratio of 0.2%. So in this case, the final amount is 27.52 lakhs. It's almost 3 lakhs more than the amount because of a difference of 0.8% in expense ratio. Now, recently there was a report by SPIVA, which is S&P Index versus Active Funds, और उसमें पता चला कि almost majority of the large cap funds were underperforming the index in 3 years, 5 years and even in the long run. तो ऐसे केस में लार्ज कैप फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट करना ही क्यों है? बस एक अच्छा निफ्टी इंडेक्स फंड पकड़ो और उसमें रेगुलर एसआईपी शुरू कर दो. अभी इंडेक्स फंड्स को पिक करना बहुत ही आसान है दीक्षा. हमें बस ये चेक करना है कि ये फंड मैनेजर इंडेक्स के रिटर्न्स को कितना अच्छे से कॉपी कर रहा है. अभी रिटर्न्स बहुत सिमिलर होते हैं बट there is a difference every single time.
But what is this difference? Why does this difference come into the picture?
This is known as tracking error. So बहुत सारे चीजों की वजह से निफ्टी इंडेक्स का एग्जैक्ट रिटर्न एक निफ्टी इंडेक्स फंड नहीं रेप्लिकेट कर पाता, राइट? So that's why ये ट्रैकिंग एरर जितना कम होगा उतना बेटर है, because the closer are the returns of the index and the replicating fund. So you should just look at two things before picking any index fund. One is this tracking error and the second is expense ratio, and the third additional thing that you should check is AUM. आज के दिन इंडिया में इंडेक्स फंड्स बहुत ही नए हैं, राइट? सो बहुत सारे इंडेक्स फंड्स काफी छोटे हैं. So you should just pick a fund which has a sizable AUM. तो इधर मैंने Finity खोल दिया, okay? I'm guessing you already know this website well. Here you will get a list of all the index funds which track the Nifty index. Here you can see that the tracking error 0.11, 0.12, 1.44. Wow, बहुत ज़्यादा. 0.07, 0.02, etc. Similarly, you can also check the expense ratio, 0.3, 0.32. Now you just pick a fund which has a very low tracking error and a very low expense ratio. Here, if you click on the fund, you get all the details as well. AUM fund size मिल जाएगा, expense ratio मिल जाएगा, minimum SIP amount मिल जाएगा. You'll also get the risk profile. Next is mid cap and small cap. अब इंडिया में mid cap index funds है, लेकिन आज के दिन में आई फील दैट अ मिड कैप फंड मैनेजर कैन एक्चुअली क्रिएट एन अल्फा ओवर द मिड कैप इंडेक्स, क्योंकि अभी भी हम बहुत इनिशियल स्टेजेस में हैं मिड कैप इंडेक्स फंड्स और स्मॉल कैप इंडेक्स फंड्स के लिए. सो आई फील दैट यू कैन गो अहेड एंड पिक अ मिड कैप एंड स्मॉल कैप फंड एंड स्टिल जनरेट अ हायर रिटर्न ओवर द इंडेक्स. सो आई हैव अ सिंपल फ्रेमवर्क टू पिक इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स. सबसे पहले यू शुड लुक एट इंसेप्शन डेट. ओके, अब जितना पुराना होगा फंड उतना ज्यादा डेटा मिलेगा, ठीक है? और वो डेटा को यूज करके यू विल गेट टू नो कि कैसा फंड ने पहले परफॉर्म किया है, व्हाट वाज हिज रिस्क प्रोफाइल, हाउ वाज इट्स परफॉर्मेंस इन डिफरेंट मार्केट साइकिल्स. नाउ आई एम नॉट सेइंग दैट ओल्डर द फंड बेटर इट इज, बट जितना ज्यादा डेटा होगा उतना अच्छे से तुम एनालाइज कर पाओगे. सो दैट्स द फर्स्ट थिंग व्हिच आई लुक एट. Second is exit load. Okay, so most equity funds do not have any lock-in period. But अगर आप एक set time period के पहले उस fund से पैसा निकालोगे, then the AMC charges a penalty. Now I look at a few technical metrics. First is alpha, right? Every mutual fund is compared to a benchmark. उस benchmark से कितना ज़्यादा returns दे रहा है, that is alpha. So if an Axis blue chip fund gives 10% in a year and Nifty gives you 8% returns, then Axis blue chip has an alpha of 2%. Next is beta. Beta basically tells us about the relative riskiness of a fund. As I said earlier, every fund is linked to an index. Okay, now beta tells you how volatile is that fund as compared to its index. Now beta is a measure of the relative riskiness, but it does not tell you anything about how risky the fund itself is. Now to find out how risky the fund is, I check another metric known as the standard deviation. Standard deviation basically tells us how much a fund deviates from the expected return. So for example, एक फंड का लास्ट 3 साल का एवरेज रिटर्न लेट्स से 20% है, ओके, और इनका स्टैंडर्ड डिविएशन है 10%. तो इसका ये मतलब है दैट दिस फंड हैज हैड रिटर्न्स एनीवेयर बिटवीन 20 - 10 एंड 20 + 10. मतलब 10 to 30% के बीच इसके रिटर्न्स रहे. इन द लॉन्ग रन योर फंड्स रिटर्न्स बिकम मोर एंड मोर प्रेडिक्टेबल.
Okay.
Are you understanding? Like Nifty एक साल के अंदर 20-30% volatile हो सकता है, but in 10 years it is a straight line, right?
Right.
Next is Sharpe ratio. Sharpe ratio basically ऐसा बोलते हैं ना बहुत लोग कि रिस्क बहुत खराब चीज है, but according to me हर टाइप का रिस्क खराब नहीं होता. अगर तुम रिस्क लेके ज्यादा रिटर्न जनरेट कर पा रहे हो तो फिर क्या बुरा है? And that's where Sharpe ratio comes into play. Right? Sharpe ratio is a measure of risk adjusted return.
So I have one question. When I was trying to invest, I saw different types of funds. So there were like, I think, regular plans and direct plans. So in दोनों में से which is better for me?
Because you are directly picking those mutual funds, you should always go for direct plans, because regular plan में क्या होता है ना, एक कोई एजेंट होता है फिर कोई बैंक इन्वॉल्व होता है जो आपको म्यूचुअल फंड्स देते हैं, और इस सर्विस के लिए जो रेगुलर फंड्स का जो एक्सपेंस रेशियो है वो डायरेक्ट फंड से ज्यादा होता है. And one good platform where you can find direct plans is your company, Finity. Finity jao. If you have not done your KYC yet, do your KYC, sign up and invest your first 25,000 right away. That was all for today's video, guys. I hope you found this video valuable. अगर आपको इस वीडियो में एक भी चीज पसंद आई तो please hit the like button. Diksha, it was a pleasure to have you. And I want you to tell people to subscribe to Finity's channel because हर हफ्ते इसमें नए वीडियोस आते हैं.
Please subscribe to the channel, guys, and like the video.
आज के लिए इतना ही. Goodbye.